A man came home late and angrily woke up his young son. "How many times have I told you to put things away where they belong? I almost ran into that overturned wheelbarrow. Why did you leave it in the laneway? Now get up and get it and put it behind the house." "Daddy," said the boy, rubbing the sleep out of his eyes, "I put the wheelbarrow there because—" "Have you forgotten what I said about making excuses?" The young boy at once got out of bed and started dressing. "Daddy, would you please come with me? You know I'm scared of the dark." Tears were now running down the soft cheeks, and his voice didn't sound right. "You put it there, sissy, go get it yourself." His mother, overhearing her husband's voice, went to the closet, took down her son's windbreaker and a sweater for herself. Then she bent down and pulled out 2 pairs of rubber boots. Because there were still puddles everywhere. A driving, drenching storm had started in the night and only ended at noon that day. She handed him his jacket and, noticing the tears on his face, stood by him as she put on her sweater and buttoned it up. He started to explain. "Mummy, you weren't home, and I was going to tell you—" His mother, with a fleeting glance to the living room, put her finger to her mouth. "It's okay, son," she said, intending to comfort him. Then she went to get the big flashlight. Just before the school bus had brought their son home, the daughter of her best friend and their nearest neighbor had come cross-country asking for help. They had quickly taken the same shortcut through the fields at the back of their small farm, instead of walking out the long laneway and taking the road. When she got back home, her son was already in bed. He was one of those children who obey their parents. Exhausted, but holding the light in one hand and her boy's hand in the other, she and her boy began walking out the long, narrow dirt laneway. The dark trees whispered mysteriously, and thunder grumbled mysteriously in the distance. When they came to the overturned wheelbarrow, and just beyond it their small car, they stopped. She was beginning to hand the light to the boy, but he was already bending down and grasping the handles lying in the mud. Small as he was, he didn't take long to turn it right side up. Now it was the mother's turn to cry. For where the wheelbarrow had been, there was a gaping, washed-out hole. She could see in an instant that had the boy not covered it, the front corner of their small car would have dropped in and taken serious damage. Trying to stifle her sobs, she wrapped her free arm around the boy and pulled him close. Then, with the boy pushing the wheelbarrow and his mother showing the way, they started back home. The thunder had moved off, and the trees reached out with friendly branches. The young boy went back to bed, and his mother went to the living room, where her husband lay on the couch. He started to say, "What do you want?" But she only motioned to him, thinking it must have been something important. He got up, followed her, out of the house and into the narrow driveway. When they finally approached the car, and his eyes followed the beam of light down into the deep pit, he uttered the sacred name. When he caught himself, he said quietly, "Good grief." On their way back home, he was quiet. New feelings were stealing into his heart. Automatically, he put his cap on the peg, bent down and pulled off each of his rubber boots. And then immediately, though slowly, because he was finding it hard to see, found his way to the narrow hallway and to his son's bedroom. After softly knocking, he quietly opened the door. Well, what he came here for could wait until morning. For their son was sleeping the sleep of the innocent misunderstood. And his father had decided who he wanted to become. As he was gently closing the door, he noticed tacked on the wall above the boy's head, at the end of the small cot, a picture of himself and his boy, and Wheelbarrow. It was when he was splitting the wood, and his son had insisted on helping him by wheeling the firewood to the lean-to shed against the side of their small house. That night in the country, in a little house both unpretentious and unremarkable, 3 people slept the sleep of the just. A little boy who used a wheelbarrow to keep his father from having an accident with the car. A tired woman who, having just helped bring her best friend's new baby son into this world, encouraged her own without one unkind word to her husband. And a man who was inspired to become a better father because his innocent son had simply done what he thought was right and refused to justify himself. And that's the story of how a young boy who turned over a wheelbarrow helped turn over a life.